If you feel like you're not the same person you were a year ago or even a few months ago, this one's for you. If you're feeling frustrated or confused about the future, then you should know that you're not alone and that you're here now because of a deep desire to learn, to understand, to adapt, and to survive. That's good. That means there's hope. So if you're here now, the universe has a message for you about who you've been, who you're becoming, and why. Wow, look at all this energy of new beginnings. The Fool, the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Fire, and even the Chariot. The Chariot, number 7 in the major arcana. Look at the how the imagery mirrors that of the Fool. Whereas the Fool has his arms in the air and he's jumping off the cliff, making that first motion towards something new, a new idea, a new feeling. 7, the Chariot, has that same energy, that same body language, but this time he has the vehicle. This time you have the foundation. You've done the work to create the foundation that is going to carry you on this journey. And especially in this version of the Chariot, you can see how it is about this united force, night and day, black and white, all together in this single individual. And that's what makes them so powerful. This is the person that you're becoming. It's that journey between the Fool and the Chariot that you have already undergone, that transformation. You've been able to do that work to unite these disparate parts of yourself into a single individual who has the tools and the vehicle needed to move forward to take on the world, essentially. If the question is, who are you becoming? I would say this is the work that you've done in the past. You've taken that leap. Sometime in the past, you took that leap and followed that new idea that you had. And that's what's brought you here to Chariot number 7, where again, you have become this fully integrated individual who has everything it takes to take the next leap, to move forward on that next leg of your journey. And the next leg of your journey is something even deeper. Here you may have had an inkling. You knew something wasn't right and that you could do things differently. And now you've proven that to yourself. And the question is, what do you want to take on now? If you're capable, if you have that fire, that spirit inside you, and you're capable of righting a wrong in the world, of really pursuing your passion, the question really is just, what's that going to look like? That's the question you're asking yourself now. So let's get into it. Right now, you're in this in-between phase, which can feel so uncomfortable because the things you thought you knew about yourself are no longer true. They're shifting, whether slowly or quickly. The things that you thought you knew about yourself are not necessarily true anymore. The people you were friends with and your family members, whatever, the people who used to support you, who you used to look up to, you're maybe seeing them in a different light. And it's all really confusing, frustrating, because you want some direction, but you're not in that new chapter yet either. So energetically, this is actually one of the most important phases of your life, because while it may feel like you're lost, the reality is that you are redefining yourself. And so right now, what we're going to look at is how did you get here? What are you leaving behind, releasing, and detaching from? First, we have 7 of Cups reversed. That's good news. You're releasing from the old values. Each one of these is something you thought might have been important, but you're realizing now that that's because somebody else put that thought into your head. You didn't do the work to discover that that had meaning to you, whether it's wealth or fame or a family or, whatever it may be. And so you're letting go of the things you know don't work for you. You're letting go of a lot of those judgments that have been put on you by other people. The path that has been set out for you by your family or your teacher or just others in society. Oh, it looks so good. It looks so inviting. Well, it's not you. It's not for you. It's not going to feel good to you. But you have certain ideas about what a good life looks like based on what you have taken in from social pressure, family pressure, what you saw on TV, So those things, the good news is you've already done the work to detach yourself from those things. The hardest part, I think, for a lot of people, and so if there's any work that still needs to be done, it's probably here, is letting go of those internal judgments of yourself, though that feeling of, well, I'm behind. Like, look what they've achieved. Look at what my neighbors achieved. Look at what my sisters achieved. Look at what the person down the street has achieved, the people I went to school with. That's great. They might be happy. That might be for them, but it's not for you. Okay. So don't worry about it. Because here's the thing, you have got what it takes, baby. The Magician, number one in the major arcana, is echoing the same sentiment that we saw here with the Chariot. And in what I mean by that is that you are the master of all these different elements. Everything you've done into your life up until this point, even though it feels like all of a sudden you have no direction, that's okay. You're just honing your skills. And now maybe you think of yourself as like a jack of all trades sorts. Well, that's a very powerful place to be and a very valuable place to be. You have a lot of skills, and really all that's left for you to do is figure out how best to put them to work. And I think the Page of Cups reverse here is giving us a little bit of a warning. The idea would be to not carry this tendency into your future, because this is something that has kept you disconnected up until this point. And that is your tendency to people please, I think. So instead of being able to stand on solid ground, you can be really affected by the emotions of others. That's what keeps you disconnected from your core purpose, because you're thinking, oh, I would love to be able to help. Yes, let me put down what I'm doing and come to your rescue. Person A, person B, whatever it is, your boss, your mom, that's a very admirable characteristic. I'm not saying don't be that kind of person. It's beautiful. But if we're talking about your career, your purpose, what's going to take you forward in life, you cannot just be willing to put down the work that you're doing to help somebody else carry their load. That can be part of how you operate in the world. When you've taken your load where it needs to be, you can go back and you can help others, okay? But if you prioritize other people's work over your own, you're never going to make any progress. So that's something that you have to leave behind and detach from as you're moving forward into this next phase. It's just the way it is. So I want to know more about how you're feeling right now. Let's dig into this discomfort. Shoot, and we'll look at this flyer after we get the other one set up. That flyer was 8 of Cups reversed. Yeah, I think you have moved on emotionally from the attachment to the person that you used to be, which we described in the previous cards. So that's the good news, is I think you've done a lot of this work. Actually, 3 more cards ended up on the floor. We'll talk about these before the reading's over, but for now, I'd like to set them aside. Yeah, you've done a lot of the work. So where are you at right now? What are some insecurities and things that are bothering you at the moment? Yeah, you're feeling uh, lost. But you're not lost. Look, you're following the path you need to. You just can't see it. You're blindfolded. You're blinded by all of these obstacles, which a lot of times can be of your own making. It can be catastrophizing in your own head. You're thinking, well, what if this happens? And what about that? And this person wants me to do this. And so if I don't do that, I'm going to disappoint them, blah, 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 blah. But you actually are making progress. You just is not visible to you yet. So keep that in mind if that helps in any way, shape, or form. Like, you do have this new idea, this new way of thinking, this new sword that you are carrying to new lands, brighter, sunnier lands. As I mentioned before, you're releasing the judgments and the patterns that have been imposed on you, and you're formulating something new, all your own. And I think the King of Swords here above the Magician is indicative of some kind of like insecurity you're feeling in your own world. Because the Magician absolutely has what it takes, but I think you still don't believe that yet. The Page of Swords is going to have to become the King of Swords. You almost have to prove to yourself that you're worthy of carrying this idea, that you're worthy of carrying this sword and sitting in this throne. And that's a tall order, especially when you've lived a life where you're used to subsuming your wants and needs and desires and your projects and your ideas to those of others. You might be struggling to believe that your idea is a worthy one. It's so much easier to help other people implement their ideas and to believe in them. It's so easy to encourage family and friends and say it's a great idea, just go for it, right? But it's so much harder to do that for yourself, and that's really what's going to be required here of you, I think. You need a cheerleader, okay? Instead of just being everybody else's own cheerleader, you need to be your own cheerleader. And it isn't clear to me that you've done all the work you need to do to get there. I know that you've done a lot of work, but specifically, maybe you want to dive in a little more when it comes to this Page of Cups. There's more work to do there in terms of your people pleasing tendencies, right? Putting yourself first. Even that phrase, I bet, bothers you. I bet that phrase triggers you. I bet you're one of those people who believes the right way to live is to always put others first. But the real truth is that you have to, what is it, secure your own oxygen first before you can help anybody. That's the truth. You know, self sacrifice is a quality that we talk about admirably, but like when you really think about it, like that's a form of disrespecting the self. Why should you matter less than anybody else? Why should you sacrifice your life, your purpose, your personhood so that what? So that others may be a little more comfortable? No, that's not why you came here. That's not what you came here for. And even with the best of intentions, you have to grow yourself before you can help people in the way that you want to, before you can really do what you're capable of and what you came here to do. So do a little more reflection on that, okay? Let's get to the really fun part. I want to know exactly who it is that you are becoming after all this. After all, on the other side of all this struggle, how is it going to pay off? I think what the Knight of Swords here is telling us in the first position is that the direction isn't as important as one might think. You don't need to know where you're going now, right? You're still making it through, even with the blindfold on. Okay, so don't dwell on that so much. What is more important that you're receiving here is the Hanged Man, this change of perspective. Again, moving from the plan that someone else has set for you and caring a lot about the judgment of external forces and people, and nurturing this new idea that you have about who you should be. That new perspective is what's going to make everything possible. What it's going to make possible is relieving this insecurity that I talked about with the King of Swords, um, and turning this magician, yourself as the jack of all trades, into someone who really and truly rules. You know, you're capable. Once you make it through this period of insecurity, you're going to be capable of leading others through this same journey for themselves, and for providing that stability and that knowledge so that they can, yeah, not only do what you did, but even become part of your enterprise should they so wish. You're becoming a person who realizes that you don't have to have a plan set in order to take the first steps. The most important thing is keeping an open mind and looking at the world from as many different perspectives as you possibly can. And these lessons that you're learning now are going to be the foundation for your future leadership. And this little Ace of Pentacles here, that I guess is going to be the kernel that comes out of this soul searching. This is really what's changing for you now, or what the work you need to continue to do to change. As I mentioned, look deep inside yourself and figure out where you've been holding on to these people-pleasing tendencies that come from such a good place in your heart, but are harming you. They're harming you by keeping you small, by keeping you from realizing everything that you're capable of, okay? This Ace of Pentacles is here for the taking. There's this idea that you can nurture and you can, these beautiful lands can blossom on the other side of that, but you do have to do that work before you can build this empire and invite others into it. Let's return to those cards that fell out during an earlier shuffle for good measure. We have the Wheel of Fortune, the Six of Wands, and the Nine of Wands. Now, yeah, you have a big destiny. You're capable of so much. So the only thing that's holding you back at this point is the work that's undone. Knowing that you have such a big destiny can really feel overwhelming. That's not the one. Can feel really overwhelming sometimes. You have a lot of energy, you want to go, but you don't know where you're going. That's both of these cards, sort of a frustrated. You could read them as a frustrated energy, a pent up energy. The thing about fate is that it is written, but the action has to be taken. We're co-creators with the universe. And if we don't take the step, if we don't initiate that movement, there's no inertia for the universal forces to work with, to pick up on. So the only way to see this victory for ourselves is to put in that hard work to fight that battle. And in your case, we're talking about an emotional battle, an emotional internal battle. What I'm really seeing here is that you're at odds with yourself because you want to be a good person, but your understanding of what good is actually hurting yourself and frankly hurting others too, because when you do everything for them, they don't grow either. So that's something that you have to come to terms with. You have to come to terms with the idea that being a good person does not necessarily mean doing all that is asked of you by other people. It doesn't mean saying yes. It means knowing when to say yes, when to provide help, and when to pull back and focus on yourself and on the care you need to do for yourself, and on the projects that you've initiated that need to be finished for your own sanity, etc. I'm sorry, the whole deck was upside down, so I am going to flip these for you. This is really interesting to me because I'm getting that you're a person who feels a deep spiritual purpose. You want to dive deep into some form of esotericism because you believe that that is really how you're going to make a connection with the beyond, with the spirits, with the ancestors, with the voices that speak to us from the other world. Which you're capable of that. This Chariot also, you have this connection to our world and the other world. So you're riding that line. You've always been riding that line. I think it's becoming more clear to you now than ever, which of course is part of why you're feeling confused, part of why you're feeling withdrawn from others. A lot of people don't have that, you know. It is a blessing, it is a gift that you have to be able to live one foot in this world and one foot in the other. Okay. And so you're wanting to deep dive into the other world. Your idea is that you can go into the other world, learn from it, and bring it back here to change the way that people think, to make the world a better place, to bring new, refreshing ideas back to humanity. But be warned that a move like this could easily become a bit self-indulgent. And that self-indulgence can lead you straight to another tower moment. If you dig down deep inside, and again, we had the hermit earlier, telling us we needed to think more about this people-pleasing mentality and really where does that come from and how is it hurting us and those around us. If you do that work and you find a way to turn your heartbreak and your pain on its head, you're gonna crack open in a positive way, in a way you didn't think was possible. Whether it hurts at first, you can't think about your old pain without bringing some of it back to a certain extent. But on the other side of the tower is, of course, the star. So it's necessary, it's unavoidable. And when you do go looking, you're going to stumble right into it. So be warned that this journey still has dark days in it, but don't let that deter you, because those dark days are all about, it's part of that process of emotional alchemy that is necessary to do the work that you want to do, to that spiritual work, to, I don't think that you are someone who's afraid of that. I think as somebody who is in touch with the other world, you already know what I'm saying. You know that love and light, that sort of idea that all there is in the world is love and light, and that if we focus on that, then we'll never be in pain again. And we know that that's just not the way the world works. Like, we know that that's wishful thinking. And the reality is that ecstasy is one and the same as this pain a lot of times. A lot of times this oak can bring us to this point of ecstasy that we're looking for. And again, we're looking for it because we want to be able to tap it for new ideas. I don't know if this means you're a creative, an artist of some sort. With the Page of Arrows, we could definitely be talking about writing or teaching. But I think the same would apply to any walk of life. You can share your knowledge in informal capacities in ways that reverberate through the generations, whether or not you ever write it down, whether or not you ever teach a class. You're a teacher to those around you. And I think that's what you want to be. I mean, ultimately, all this people-pleasing stuff is really just a desire to positively impact the world and positively impact those you love. And so that's not going anywhere. That doesn't have to go anywhere. But what you do need to do is ask those serious questions of yourself to find out where that tendency comes from. If it's coming from a place of pain, and if it's causing you more harm than good, and if it's causing more harm than good to those around you, and how you can alchemize it and transform it so that you can see the kind of change that you are looking to create in the world. Again, final thoughts on the you that you're becoming. You're becoming someone who is comfortable walking that line, living halfway in our world and halfway in the other world, the earthly mundane concerns of every day and the higher concerns of a spiritual person, about what you're becoming, about what the world is becoming. You're intently focused on those questions, and your real power is going to be bringing those down to earth. You've got the desire for that. And with the desire comes the power. If it can be implemented correctly. And with the Chariot, I am getting that you absolutely have what that takes, okay? You just don't see your direction yet. So, final thoughts on this from the Tarot of the She. Warrior 2 and Dancer 3. So the Two of Wands directly following the Ace of Wands. Yeah, I mean, here you go. You're making slow and steady progress. You're going to have some path. You're going to, in the near future, see some paths laid out before you, and it's going to be time to make that decision. So do that work, that internal work, so that you're ready when the time comes. Because one of these paths, the path that you choose, ultimately is how you're going to find your happiness. It's going to take you there. Emotional satisfaction. On a more mundane level, let's give you something to look forward to here. We'll talk to the Rider-Waite. What can we be expecting to see in the near future? What is already in motion, even if it isn't obvious to us yet? The Empress. Our creativity is blossoming. And I don't know if that looks like, again, if you're literally an artist or if you're just sort of an artist of life. Either way, your garden is blossoming. Your creativity can be aimed at the smallest things. It can have to do with the way you choose to raise your children or decorate your home. You know, there's no limit to this. There's nothing too big and nothing too small. Your creativity is blossoming. Three of Wands. Yeah, same thing. Ace of Wands, Two of Wands, Three of Wands. You're making slow and steady progress, and you will conquer whatever it is you aim to conquer. As I said, there's nothing too big and there's nothing too small. If you want to conquer the world, then so be it. Have at it. If you simply want to conquer your bedtime routine, start there. The point is that your hard work is going to pay off, and that's the hard work that you've done already and that you continue to do. In the end, that will be your legacy. You're building your legacy one pentacle at a time. So congratulations and keep up the good work.